Welcome to part two in our series for the DACS Leadership Framework, the E411 Principle for Leading Others. And this is the second part on real life examples. Welcome. All right, in this section, we're going to try to have some fun and take some risk, go on a limb, and try to apply the DACS concept to some real life examples. And hopefully, in doing so, can help everyone to get a more firm grasp of how this thing really help us to tell stories and understand the leadership dynamics that's out there, whether it's through business history or through biblical cases. Let's start with some very, very forefront and very, very contemporary examples with one of the most successful companies in the world. Steve Jobs and Tim Cook, two very high-profile leaders running one of the most successful organizations, at least on the outside, successful organizations ever. And how do they sort of bring balance into the entire DAX spectrum? And my opinion is this: Steve Jobs is much more of a dreamer and architect, while Tim Cook were closer to the people, took on more of a coach and a servant role. Um, I wouldn't say any one of these things are perfect fit, but uh, I would say that for Tim Cook to take over Apple today, and for us to expect him to take the role of Steve Jobs is just not going to be uh, it's not going to be possible. It's not going to be able to be replicated. What I think their strategy should be is that Tim Cook should find someone else who can replace Steve Jobs. He should find another dreamer architect kind of a person for him to complement and for him to drive forward that company. Because that's really how he's wired. That's really how he's sort of gifted, is to enable a industry changer type of a dreamer architect. Well, how about in history with Sun Yat-sen and Huang Xing? For those of you who are well versed in Chinese history, Sun Yat-sen is credited as the father of modern China. Without him, many people believe that China would not have come out of the monarchy age and into its sort of a modern form today. And he worked closely with a man named Huang Xing, that who may not be as well known, but in the way they complemented each other, and in my opinion, this is what their profile will look like, in terms of the DAX spectrum, where Sun Yat-sen is much of a dreamer, uh, driving the vision, and then you have a servant, someone who's shown a lot of sacrifice and been a true example of seeing others' interest before his own. While Huang Xing was more of an architect that designed and planned the revolutions in China, and then the coach that drove the army to be able to engage in the battles. And the incredible thing about that whole revolution is that Sun Yat-sen actually was exiled for 11 years during that time, or 11 years before they finally had a successful overthrow. And so for 11 years, he could not return to China. And without fax machines, without the internet, without Twitter, without email, he was able to work with Huang Xing in such a way that they can carry out, history's one of the most dramatic revolutions. And that's just incredible. And that shows that when this DAX is well balanced across the spectrum, even in those kind of say lesser technology driven societies where communication was probably much more difficult, not probably, it definitely is much more difficult than today, but yet they can still bring about one of the greatest changes of government ever to take place in the history of the world. For those of you who are Star Trek fans, I don't want to stir up too much controversy and spend too much time on on this page, but just to let you know that DAX also can be mapped into Star Trek, and this is my opinion of how they map. Okay, this is just my opinion, and we will not spend too much time on this. God bless you. All right, let's look into the Bible between Moses and Aaron. So, what do you think their relative, position in DAX might fall? Give you a little bit of time to guess. Moses definitely is a dreamer and the architect that who has received the revelation from God. And Aaron was, more of the people person who was so people oriented that he was able to be manipulated into building a cow, building a golden cow that just came out of the fire. So, but you can see that between them, in the way they engaged Pharaoh, all the way to the way that they governed the entire population of Israel, uh, there was this balance that was brought about so effective leadership could have taken place. Paul and Barnabas is another interesting example. I believe that without one another, the New Testament church would have been a much, much different picture. And well, this is how I see them line up in the DACS profile, where Paul is taking care of the DAC, the DAC, and then Barnabas taking care of the S. Uh, and just as his name implies, Barnabas is the son of encouragement. He's probably a very, very people-oriented person, and very much in tune with people's needs, and to raising them up to help them to feel strong and good about themselves. And perhaps this is one of the reasons why Paul and Barnabas has such different philosophies about about the way to deal with Mark when Mark felt like he couldn't go on anymore. And uh, and this just shows you, the different temperaments that's required to be working together as an effective DAX team. And we will go back to the example of Paul and Barnabas later, but this is just my take on how they complemented each other and made the world difference in the New Testament church, in the the Western society, and the overall Western civilization as we know it today. Okay, rest assured, this is all biblical. I believe the Bible shows us that the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit also exhibited uh, in their leadership expressions the different roles of the DACs. And this is my take, at least. There's some biblical basis to this on how the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit can line up according to DACs. So God created DACs. God showed it to us through Ephesians chapter 4, and God He Himself in the Trinity also manifest these different elements, these different angles of leadership, and again being an example for us so that we can understand, how to live out His image.